All right, everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for coming to the 5 deadly startup mistakes. It sounds so ominous, but what we're going to be doing is going over a lot of different things, not just the mistakes part, but how to fix them part. And I was trying to let everyone know ahead of time, normally GoToWebinar is awesome, works really, really well, but earlier today I was on the phone with them for almost an hour, so I cannot actually see your questions, which is a bit of a pain. I was really hoping we could go through and have you guys ask questions as we go, but we'll see how this goes. What I want you to do is, if you don't already have it, grab a pen and a paper or an iPad or some sort of note-taking, because I really want to make sure that you guys are actually listening so you can actually implement some of this stuff. I know that sometimes when you sign up for a webinar, you sort of are doing other things and you have it in the background and you're kind of listening in, which is fun, and I've done that before too, but you really don't get as much out of it as you possibly could. So if you're here, I want you to really be here and pay attention, because we're really gonna go over these mistakes that are really, really common and how to fix them, or at least avoid them if possible, okay? And the way I do everything, I'll tell you a little bit of the admin stuff at first. Go ahead and type in questions as we go. Even if I can't see them right now, I'll be popping in and out of my keynote so I can read questions. Hopefully this won't be too awkward. So definitely do that. The way I also do pretty much every speech, every webinar I've ever done is I really want you to take action. We can listen all we want, but none of that really matters unless we actually take some action. So at the end of every one of these mistakes, I'm going to give you an action item. If you choose to accept it, I want you to choose it, right? So at the very, very end, I'm actually going to list all 5 of the action items, and I want you to pick the one that works the best for you right now, okay? And I want you to commit to it. So we don't just listen to the whole webinar and then don't do anything or take any action. We want to just do one of these at least. And at the very end, I'm actually going to poll you and ask you which one you're going to be doing. What I'm actually going to be doing right now too, is I'm going to pop out a keynote for just a second. Perfect. I hear people saying this is a test in the answered box. I'm going to pop up a poll because I really want to know, what does your life look like right now? I want to know if you have a day job and still want to start a business, or if you have a day job and you have a side business already that you're working on, or if you're a business owner and absolutely loving it, or if you're a business owner and wanting to start something new. Okay, so go ahead and vote right now. I see all the numbers churning. And I'll be drinking a lot of tea. My throat's been really killing me, so please bear with me. 50% of the people have voted so far. Ooh, I now wish I had a little spot for other. There's quite a few others. I'm wondering what that is. Actually, if you are an other, once the poll's done, oh good, there are people already posting in the questions. I have a night job, I'm a student. Ooh, I didn't have that on there. Set to graduate. Oh good, that's great. 75% is voted. We'll give it a couple more seconds. It's amazing if you're here and you're still in school. I love talking to people still in school. I wish someone had told me about this stuff when I was in school. All right, not everybody came through, but maybe they're not paying attention. Shh, we won't tell them about the poll. So let me go ahead and close the poll. Most of the people are in a day job and want to start their business, or at least have started something on the side. That's really exciting. And the reason why I wanted to sort of go over that is to make sure I'm helping where you are right now, right? Because there could be a plethora. I mean, there's 18% have business owners and want to start something else, and 13% who are just business owners and absolutely love it, who are here too. And I want to make sure I tailor to them, but it looks like most of the people are sort of brand new, which makes sense because this is the 5 deadly startup mistakes. So I want to go ahead and jump in. Again, unfortunately, I won't see the questions box, but we'll do what we can do. Okay, so in this webinar, we're going to also talk about the 5 tips to avoid these mistakes. I just want to say that this is not innate, okay? And if you've listened to any of the interviews already, you know that we weren't born with this. Successful entrepreneurs have not been born out of the womb knowing exactly what to do. It's a huge learning curve. something that we don't really think of when we get started. And so that's why I want to be here for you guys now to help you along, because I didn't have anyone really to help me as much as I wish. And so hopefully I can be that for you. So if you don't know who I am yet, I'm Jamie. That's a picture of me. I've been a business coach for a long time now, over 5 years. And before that, though, I worked in corporate. So I don't know if you know anything about me already, but I worked at a job, looked like on the surface it was the best job ever, right? It was a job where at 22, I was making 6 figures. I was a project manager for a video on demand company. And pretty much what I did is I traveled around the US helping people with their computers. And so it sounded great. I had hotels, I was flights, I had tons of frequent flyer miles, I had an expense account. Especially at that age, everybody thought I knew what I was doing and I had it all and I should have been happy. I even had 2 houses at one point when I was 22, which is not a smart idea. I was also in $70,000 in debt, and realized that those choices of buying all that stuff really was holding me back and keeping me in a job that I hated, because I was also the breadwinner and my husband was a performer. He actually did juggling. And so to me, in my brain, I was going, okay, I'm gonna quit my 6-figure job so we can be and live on my husband's juggling income. Like, to me, it was a stretch. And I remember looking up tons of stuff online. And again, this was 6-7 years ago. So there wasn't a lot of information online and I just thought I was insane. I couldn't find anyone with a story even remotely like mine. And so I didn't know if it could be done at all. Well, ta-da, it can be done. And that's sort of what I want to show you right now. I've absolutely loved I was going to say every minute. I haven't loved every minute of it, but I love where I am right now. I work 20 hours a week, so I'm here with my small children often. I have a 3rd floor office, so I'm up in the 3rd floor office right now. I'm able to interview, if you guys have listened to the interviews, amazing people, over 90 millionaires now. I think I did 8 interviews last week prepping because I have a book deal also. Lots of amazing things that I never in a million years would have dreamt possible then. 7 years ago, there's no way I would have even imagined my life being like this. Sort of some of the other things that have happened. I've been on Yahoo's homepage twice. I've been on CNN, MSN, Success Magazine, a whole bunch of press. I didn't even think that was possible. Nobody in my family was an entrepreneur. Nobody knew what they were doing. Nobody had businesses. I didn't have any role models like that. So I just sort of want to put that out there for you because you might be in that same spot, okay? And that's okay. What we care about right now, though, is learning so that way you can learn how to do it, because 5 years is an amazing long time to be learning and growing, especially in your business. So let's talk about why you should work for yourself. I sort of told you my point, right? This is why I really wanted that freedom. I wanted to be able to be with my kids when I wanted to be with my kids, and I wanted to work when I wanted to work. Huge things that you can't really do when you're in a day job. I remember people telling me that I needed to fly out on a Friday afternoon and be gone all weekend, even if I already had plans. And I hated that. So why don't you go ahead, I'm gonna pop out of this, why don't you go ahead and post in the questions box, why do you wanna work for yourself? Oh, I've got people saying, when's the book gonna be released? Thank you, I'm still writing it right now. It's supposed to come out at the beginning of next year. Why don't you go ahead and post though? So freedom, being with the kids, flexibility, having more fun, yes! Fun, oh my gosh. Freedom, I want to pick my own schedule. I want to make money. Yeah, that's the thing. One of the reasons why I decided to go on my own business was because I knew that if I only worked 20 hours a week somewhere else, it would be making barely any money. And I want to be a millionaire. I want to make money. Freedom, travel, freedom and flexibility to love what you do. That's huge. Directing my own time, independence, autonomy, making a big impact. That's huge. Yes to everything. Freedom, making my own choices. Wow, these are, okay, I can't read all of these. Have twins. Wow, my best friend had twins last week. I can only imagine. And I'm helping her start her own business too because she's in the same boat. financial freedom, happiness. Thanks, guys. I mean, exactly. That's exactly why you want to do it. And you can have that. And that's what I want to let you know. I know it's very difficult where you are right now because I remember being there and I remember feeling kind of stuck. And so if you feel stuck, I just want to give you a little bit of inspiration. You know, it's okay to feel stuck once in a while. That's also why you're on this webinar, to try and get past that. So let's sort of dive in. And be prepared because we have tons of stuff, and but I really want to make sure if you have questions too, after each one of the mistakes, I'll go through and try and answer some of the questions. I know we only have an hour, and I sometimes these run long, so I really want to make sure we end on time. I hate being late, and of course, I heard this joke already once today. My last name's Tardy. I shouldn't be late. Ha ha ha. Okay, so let's go on to the very first mistake. Mistake number 1 is picking a bad idea. Now this is just kind of funny, right? Of course you don't want to pick a bad idea. Of course you don't. But how do you know what a bad idea is or isn't? And you won't know. You won't really know until you actually put it out there. But I have some really good tips because you probably have a ton of ideas, especially if you're in a day job and wanting to start a business and you haven't yet. There are actually 3 ways that millionaires have started their businesses, which is really funny. I've interviewed 90, right? And I went back through all the transcripts and I found the ones and how they started their businesses. And it was 3 ways. It was kind of really interesting to me. So the first one is that you were already an employee. So you were already doing the work for someone else, just like Marissa Levin. I don't know if you guys have listened to that interview, but Marissa Levin owns a company called Information Experts, and she was doing this same work for another company. And she went in one day to ask for a raise. And her boss told her no, and that there was no way she was ever going to make more than $30,000 at the job. Now, this was a long time ago. This was probably, I think she said 17 years ago. But there was no way she was going to make more than $30,000. And so, hating that, having that cap, she quit. And of course, her story goes, within the next couple months, she got a contract that lasted 3 months that made $34,000. So, ta-da, right? Take that same knowledge that you already have and then go out on your own. So that's one way. The next way is having your own need. And I just re-interviewed Amos Winbush, amazing guy. He owns CyberSyncs, which he had an issue with his cell phone being backed up. And he wanted to make sure that that never happened to anyone else again. And apparently there was nothing already on the market like that. So he was sort of scratching his own itch. And he went out and created this amazing company that sort of took off like crazy. They got 13,000 subscribers in the first week that they launched, because it was a need that was really needed out there, but nobody was filling. So that's number 2. Number 3 is to ask the market, right? Dane Maxwell, he owns a couple different companies. One of them is called Paperless Pipeline. He also just launched something called the Foundation. So if you listen to that interview, he talked a lot about the Foundation. But one of the things that he said is he didn't really know exactly what real estate agents or realtors wanted. So he went and asked them. And they told him exactly what they needed. Another story, another interview that I had done was he actually, of course, I can't even remember his name right now. I'm totally going off the cuff right now. But he ended up doing an award-winning business plan. And that award-winning business plan failed twice. Because he didn't know the needs of the market ahead of time. So the third time, he was really smart. And he went to the market and asked them what they actually wanted, and that's how he built his multi-million-dollar business. So having these 3 key ways of picking the right idea, really critical at the beginning. And the reason why it's critical is you might have an idea that's okay, and that's great, but it will be harder to sell it, right? If people are like, nah, it's kind of needed, it's kind of important, I don't know, I probably wouldn't pay a lot of money for it. Maybe it's something that they would take for free, but they don't want to pay for it. Those are the things that are going to be those bad ideas. The ones that probably might work if you push really, really, really hard. Those are the ones that are going to get you. Because the ones that are just horrible, you usually know right out of the gate. You usually know, like, okay, nobody wants this, I should move on to something else. But it's those ones that are sort of in between That's what's kind of difficult. So I want to talk about one of my clients, Antonio. He's amazing, and I want to tell you a little bit of his story on how he found his 2 businesses that he has. So he has 2. The first one is called a tailoredsuit.com. That's the first one he created. The one that he's using a lot right now and going crazy is realmenrealstyle.com. So of course, if you're a guy and you need to know style advice, Antonio is the man for this. When I was at New Media Expo, everyone was asking him for advice. And you can see why. He's very well dressed. But some of the things he noticed was this was a need that he needed. When he got fit for his wedding, he felt like the suit didn't really fit. And he felt like there was only $200 options or maybe $5,000 options. But he couldn't, for some reason, find something that was a good fit and a reasonable price. So when he went to business school, he ended up creating a tailored suit, which actually created custom suits for people. And that started going really well. And he started learning about online tactics and how to promote online. And he realized there was a need for people just to find out more information on that, right? How the heck do you dress? I know, because as soon as I got Antonio as a client, I got my own personal stylist because I really needed to learn how to dress too. But his stuff is going really, really well with not as much push. I mean, don't get me wrong, he works a ton, but the market really needs this. And so because of that, he can sell it much easier. Okay, so that's just one example. And so what I want to do for you guys right now is to give you an action item. Okay? If you don't have any idea yet, you don't have an idea picked, right? You're sort of still putting some feelers out, not really sure what's going on next. I want you to get a journal, right? I have my old journals from years ago. Actually, it's really funny. One of them is sitting right in front of me. I was looking at it the other day. Get a journal just for ideas. And I want you to make it into 3 sections. And I want you to put those 3 topics that we talked about. Okay, whether it's something in your day job that you can do, whether it's a need in your own life that you have, or what markets you want to explore, right? That you can go and actually ask them. Now, if you already have an idea, I want you to ask yourself, does it fit these criteria? A lot of the times what will happen is we'll just find our passion, right? Oh my gosh, I absolutely love doing this. And you go, now who do I get to buy it? And not that that's completely wrong, because there are people out there that works really well for, but when you're looking to build a scalable business, not just a regular make a little bit of money, always sort of trying to make more and feel sort of that lack, it's best to try and go with one of these ideas. Not that you can't do it the other way, but try and go with one of these ideas to make it a little bit easier on yourself. Okay, does that make sense? And I mean, write this stuff down. I'm going to actually go through and see if you guys have any questions right now too. Great domain names. I know Antonio's got some great domain names. All right. Oh, and I've got people saying stuff. Okay, can you guys hear me okay? Someone's saying that it's coming in and out. Can you hear my audio okay? Okay, what were the 3 sections? What were those 3 sections? And everyone can hear me okay. Okay, so the first one is what skills that you already have in your day job, right? As an employee, what skills do you actually have? The next one are needs in your own life. Okay, and the last one is going to be where you ask the market. So you want to ask specific industries what you want. Say you really like real estate, but you're not really sure if you want to necessarily just be in the industry or if you want to be a realtor or whatever you want to do. But go and start asking realtors, if that's who you want to serve, what they need. That's exactly what Dane did, and that's how he came up with Paperless Pipeline, because he realized that there were tons of paperwork as a realtor. I mean, if any of you have bought a house before, you know exactly how ridiculous it is. So what he ended up doing was creating this system, a software product that he could sell to realtors to make it paperless, which is hugely important and easy to sell because they all need that. Okay, so I want to make sure we have enough time too. I don't see too many other questions, so let's see. And I do need to remember to actually take a drink. So there we go. Okay, so let's go on to the next mistake. Choosing a name. I'm laughing at this one because my husband this morning was actually having this exact same issue, and I told him he should be on the webinar tonight, which is funny. We were actually going back and forth between a couple. And so I actually ended up giving him the formula that I will be giving you guys in just a minute too. So choosing a name is tough because, and not because it's hard to pick a name, because of course sometimes it's hard to pick a name and we put so much effort into it. But the biggest mistake that I see is that people wait until they have a name to get started. And I think that's huge, right? Because we feel like the very beginning we should be choosing a name and getting that domain name and starting the website. Like that's what everybody thinks. Those are the first 3 things that you should be doing. And it is not at all. Okay, huge mistake. So like I said, don't wait. You don't need to have a name to start. One of my really good friends, Marin, just got funded by Tony Hsieh from Zappos for $2 million. And I remember when she's in my mastermind group, or was in my mastermind group. And her company's name is Zirtual.com, which is a really great name, but she did not have that at first. She put it through the ringer for months and months and months before she even had a name. And one of the reasons why is because you don't really know what your business is going to evolve to. As soon as you start putting it into the market, like I said, they're going to give you feedback and tell you what you need, right? And maybe it's a little tweaked. She actually started out doing virtual assistants only in the Philippines. But by trial and error and moving around and pivoting, is what we call it, pivoting, she ended up having only executive assistants in the United States. And that's her company now. But at the beginning, I mean, I knew her before she even had a business idea. And so it was really amazing to sort of see how she went. The other thing I want to say, if you are right now going through and trying to pick a name, it's not as bad as you think, because I don't know if you just listened to Elle's interview. Elle, I just put up on Monday. She's from Lexion Capital Management. Okay, cool name, right? But if you listen to the interview, she had it bad. Because when you're in the industry that she's in, a lot of people have hedge funds, and they just create hedge funds like crazy. So every name you could think of was already taken. Anything she tried to have was already taken and registered because she had to register it. So she went through forever trying to figure out ways. And so I pulled out some of the pieces that she used to try and find her business name, and she ended up going with Lexion Capital Management. So while you think that yours is bad, that it's really hard to come up with a name, you don't have it as bad as you think. The other thing is that the heavens won't open up, right? I wish I could ask you right now if I could actually see the window. Do you think that it's going to be like, oh, oh my gosh, this is the perfect name. I know it is. Let's go make sure. And the domain name's available. Unfortunately, it is not that easy. Unfortunately. You know, sometimes you have a really good inkling. Sometimes you go with your gut. But in general, you're not going to know. You're not going to know for 101% certain that this is the perfect name for you. And that's okay. There is no right or wrong answer. Whatever you pick, whatever you move forward with is important. I ended up just chatting with Aviv from, he was on Facebook, he's a listener, and he was sending me a message and asked me to sort of think about his business name. And he does cinematography and learning about that sort of stuff online, and he's just sort of starting out this side of the business. He's really good at what he does, but he sort of wants to be the expert in film. And I ended up chatting with him, and the idea that he had was for infantfilms.com. He actually already had the domain. He was planning on using Infant Films. And to me, and if you guys are listening, you can probably think of that too, if he's the expert in the film industry, Infant Films didn't really give it that expert status. It sounded kind of low level. It sounded like a baby, to tell you the truth. I'm sure Aviv's going to be listening to this later. So what I ended up saying is, considering you want to be an expert, go and look in the thesaurus for the word expert and try and find something that really shows how much you know, right? The opposite of infant, pretty much. And so he ended up going with Big League Films. And so he's getting bigleaguefilm.com, and he's moving forward on that. And he's so excited because he really wasn't sure about Infant Films, and now he feels really solid about Big League Film. The other thing I want to chat with is Adam. Adam's actually on the line. Woo, go Adam. This was the only picture I had of you. by the way, which is not of your face. You do exist. You're on right now. Not that long ago, Adam and we actually met at New Media Expo, and I started helping him with a podcast. An awesome podcast that now has a name. But as he says in this quote right here, that he's been collecting podcasting equipment since 2003 and lots of excuses for why he hasn't even recorded yet, which is why he has me. And of course, that hard question of what would I actually call it? So especially if you guys are planning on doing anything online, this is a big thing. We feel like we can't do anything yet. We can't get the website. We can't start anything until we have this. So trying to come up with something would be really important. After 2 sessions and going through sort of this formula that I have for him, he has a name and he has a date. Okay, so the name, actually I'll release it right now, is called Waiting to Leap. And it's all about, so if you guys like my podcast, you should check his out too. I'm totally putting him on the spot for this. But it's going to be all about that moment where that decision came, right? When the moment came for me was when I just finally decided that no matter what it took, I was going to quit that job, which meant I had to pay off the $70,000 in debt first. That was that moment of going, okay, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And especially that day that I told my boss that I quit, that was really important too. Okay, and that's what he's going to be talking about on his podcast, which I think is really exciting. Should be out in March, so he's already going gangbusters on it. I've been on him like crazy. So the action item, if you choose to accept it, right, if this is where you're at in your business right now, this is how I help people pick a name without inspiration, right? Sometimes you just get hit by inspiration. Sometimes you don't. And when you don't, you can still move forward. So what I want you to do is set a date on when you're going to pick the name by. That's number 1, because the easiest thing to do is to just let it go on forever. Okay? Then you want to really figure out the mission or work of your company and find some words that have that feeling for you. Okay, there's a lot of domain names that are taken, there's a lot of business names that are taken, but you really want to get whatever that feeling is for you. And try and get a list of at least 20. This is exactly what I had Adam go through and do, and my husband actually go through and do. And use a thesaurus for those. It's just generating. You probably do something very similar to this right now. But then the biggest thing for me is to read them before you go to bed and get reactions from people. Specifically get reactions from people. Because as soon as you say the words to somebody, say I was thinking of names, these are some of the names I was thinking of, they will, by expression, tell you what they think. Okay? Ask people that are more supportive than not supportive, though. That usually helps. But they can give you their feedback on how they interpret it. Now, we're going to have to ask quite a few people because, some people have specific reactions to specific things, but you want to get a general idea. And then after that, you should have it narrowed down to a couple, and you want to look for available domain names and go with your gut to pick one. Okay? So now you have a plan on how to pick that name instead of just randomly trying to think. Okay, so I'm actually going to hop out. Actually, we're running a little short on time, but I'm going to hop out. Ooh, there's tons of stuff. What if I've already picked my name? Yeah, and it evolved, and now the name doesn't really make sense anymore. That's really tough, and you bought the website. Yeah, I would actually pick a new name and then forward it, right? Ooh, and we've got Waiting to Leap is an awesome name. Good, we've got. Beautiful. All right, so I'm going to move on. There's a couple questions. Hopefully, maybe I can get to them at the end, too. I just want to make sure we have enough time. So let's move on to the next one, because we're on number 3. You guys still awake, right? Mistake number 3, which is huge. You might have already noticed that it's huge, especially if you've been wanting to start your business for a long period of time. Getting in your own way, right? At the very beginning when you signed up, I said I'd reveal that one thing that you should be stressing over, right? That's this. Not that you should stress over it, but you should really be aware of this. This happens all the time without us even recognizing it. Excuses pop up, tons of stuff happens. And so you are your own worst enemy. You probably already know that, right? But in general, it's in our brains that most of the issues take place. And the way I know that for certain is if you were to take one of the people I've interviewed, or even me, someone that's been in business for a long time, and put them up with the same idea at the same time frame as someone who doesn't really know as much, you would actually be surprised. Not just do they know marketing tactics, not just do they know that sort of stuff, they know to get things done in business. They know to get over their fears. Facing your fears is huge. Underestimating yourself, huge. Indecision and not sure which way to turn takes up so much time. Another thing you'll see as you start going through business is the chasing money or opportunities, right? So you're like, oh, well, I thought iPhone apps were really hot right now. Or I thought, starting software is really the cool new thing to do. That's not what we should be doing. That's not a good idea, especially even when you're in your business. Maybe there are people that come to you and say, oh, do you do this thing? And you're like, yeah, sure, I can kind of do that. That's not exactly what we need to do too. Focus is really important. Actually, when you go through the transcripts, and I know from my own business, focus is the number one thing that keeps getting mentioned, okay? Which is very hard when you're first starting. Being afraid of failure. I mean, I send out an email. Most of you probably actually already got it. If you're on the list, it's what's stopping you? And I get emails from people, and I will email you back, though the log is quite large now. But I will definitely email you back because this is huge. What's stopping you? Almost every single thing is themselves, right? One person said, fear of not believing that little old me can do it. Who am I to do this? What if I do it wrong? I'm not very good yet. I'm not an expert yet. I feel like I can't start. I'm afraid to be seen. Those same things come up over and over and over again. Or even A to Z thinking, which is what I call it. You feel like when you start your business, you need to know exactly what steps to take forever to hit, your $1 million goal. And that's not the way it works at all. You really only need to know the next few steps because your path changes and evolves practically every minute as an entrepreneur. And if you guys are already entrepreneurs in-house and you've started this, you know it can be really tough. So I want to give you one example. Christine, I got this email after I did one of my last webinars. This was really powerful for me, so I wanted to share it with you guys. I did a webinar, and she said she decided, it was a webinar all about fear, all about how to get over your fear. And I want to, I'm going to have the link in the action items so you guys can check that out too. But she was ready to get out of her comfort zone, no longer allow insecurity and fear to stop her. And last year as a whole, she made $13,000. And in 2 months, she made $12,500 just from fear, just from getting over her fear. Huge, huge. So your action item, if this is the one that you pick, is to really pay attention to yourself, right? We need to sort of have like that third eye. We really need to make sure that we're looking at it from a top level view. I like to have other people call out issues, right? Especially for clients, it's easy for me to do. I can spot excuses like crazy. So pay attention to yourself or have someone else pay attention to the words you're using, to the excuses you're giving, all that fun stuff. And then once you notice them, because really awareness, which isn't on that list, but is really the first step. Once you notice that stuff, you want to gather as much logical evidence as possible. Especially like in the case of indecision, right? Gather as much stuff as humanly possible. Go through it. If you go, who am I to do this? Answer that question. Who else should do it, right? Why can't you? Try and find case studies or feedback of people that were very similar to you, just like I went through, trying to find case studies of people that have done it, that were just like me, right? That shows you that you can do it too. Go with your gut. And especially for indecision, set a short-term goal and test it, right? So if you're scared of something, if fear is coming up, set a really short-term goal just to do it as fast as possible. Get it out of the way and make sure you stick to that goal. Okay, so if you choose this action item, that's going to be the end result. You're going to be picking a short-term goal to just do something. Whether you're scared about being afraid to be seen or if you do it wrong or anything like that, right? My go-to webinar, totally not working well tonight, but I'm still here, even though it's a pain in the butt. All right, and that's actually, if you go to eventualmillionaire.com/blog/fear, you'll get the whole webinar all about fear. It goes through what your brain does scientifically on why that stuff is really interesting to know because it's not just you, right? It's innate, unfortunately. And so getting past it and knowing that information to get past it is really beneficial. All right, so I'm going to hop out again. Hopefully this isn't too annoying to you guys. Will you talk more about chasing money? All right, quickly, I can totally do that. You rock. Oh, sweet, Christian. Christian's here. Okay, I love seeing people that I know. So chasing money is where, okay, think of it as like a squirrel, right? Peter Shankman, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he created Help a Reporter Out. And I remember watching his speech. And one of the things he said is he has ADD. And he's like a squirrel, where the squirrel will go and anything you notice, it's all over the place, right? Looking, paying attention all over the place. So I think what's really important is to know that you need to set that goal beforehand and just move forward on that, right? Chasing money is where you go, oh, that person said I might have an opportunity here, or I might have an opportunity there, or I might make a little bit of money off this thing, or I might be able to do this. That spreads you so thin that you usually end up not making much, right? What you really want to do is build a solid foundation of a company that's going to work for you. Okay. And yes, if you came in a little late, this should be recorded. It says that it's recording, so you can always go back and listen to it later too. All right, so let's move on. Mistake number 4, thinking you need lots of money. Okay, this is an excuse, and I hear it all the time, which is of course why I created a webinar a long time ago that says the excuse of why I have no money excuse. Because everyone's like, oh, why don't you start a business? Well, I don't have enough money. That's an excuse. You know why I know it's an excuse? Because I know tons of people without money that started businesses too. Okay? Money is an excuse. It's a wall. I mean, it's not a wall. Let me rephrase that. It's not a wall. It's a bump, right? It's a little bump in the road. And we tend to let it be a wall because you're scared, most likely, and moving forward's hard, and you want to do it right. But really, there's easy ways to get access to money or do things very inexpensively. Right? You can start a business nowadays so inexpensively. It's a little bit ridiculous. Websites cost, $10 a month for hosting. There's so many free ways to get traffic. There's so many ways to do things without any money whatsoever. Even just calling people up on the phone. I know that's sort of an old school way of doing it, but I have clients actually do that. I make some of my clients do that. It doesn't cost any money, and you can actually talk to the people that will buy from you, right? Even on a larger scale. Even for prototypes, there's ways for you to get money. I had a client named David Anderson, amazing guy, has an amazing business idea. It's going to take a lot of money. It's something that definitely needs a prototype and a lot of money probably backing it up. And so the very first thing that we did is we had him going and meeting venture capitalists, right? Smart guy. Really smart guy, starting meeting venture capitalists even before the idea was fully melded. And the reason why is so that way they could also give him feedback beforehand, right? He had 2 people, last I chatted with him, he had 2 people waiting that were venture capitalists, waiting until the idea was ready to hear it. Okay? There's always ways for you to get through stuff. The other way that you can do it, like Dane Maxwell said, if you want to get into software, definitely look up Dane. Super cool guy. He gets people to commit to paying for the product beforehand. And I've actually had lots of clients do this too, because you get people to actually say, yes, I'm going to buy that for you. And then you go ahead and create it, especially if it's going to take a lot of money. A very good way ahead of time to get people to actually commit so you know what revenue is coming in, so that way you can go ahead and create it. That's sort of the best way if you can do it, because you know the money's coming in. Okay, but let me just say there is always a way. Always a way. Okay? We are problem solvers. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you are a problem solver. That's sort of what your hat is. And you can figure it out as long as you don't let anything stop you. So to give you guys an example of this, my client Lydia, she's a very successful dentist actually, and she's looking to start her own practice. And so in 2 months, it's a little bit ridiculous how much she gets done, but in 2 months, she has tons of stuff done. I mean, at the very beginning, actually it's been less than 2 months. At the very beginning, she didn't even know what her business was going to be. She was sort of all over the place. She had a bunch of different ideas. She came to me. She went from absolutely nothing to now she has the name, the logo, the website just about complete, speaking gigs ready to go. We're working on her sales funnel right now. And the best thing is it didn't really cost very much money, right? I have a ton of resources, which I'm going to give you in the action items. If you don't have a website yet or a logo or anything like that, tons of resources on how to get those inexpensively. And she's frugal, and I helped her save thousands of dollars because she didn't know where to go for her website. She assumed she would have had to, find someone that, charges $2,000 for a website. And that's not the case anymore. We live in an amazing world of technology that we can get things a lot less expensively. All right, so actually let's go over some of that stuff now. All right, so this is sort of the plan that I have for anybody who's starting a new business. This is the path I walk them through for an inexpensive website. The thing is that when you first start, you don't have to have a ridiculously good website. I love my website right now, don't get me wrong. Gorgeous, it took a long time to implement. But at the very beginning, I had a free theme on WordPress. When I was on CNN, free theme. I spent $10 for hosting, and that was it. So really, you really don't necessarily need a lot. If you want to go ahead and do a website and you aren't very technical, this is sort of the plan that I'd have for you. So I'd go to wordpress.org if you're technical, and you can set up your own WordPress account. If you're not technical, go to blogsetup.com. That's actually run by my good friend Erica. And so what that is you sign up for hosting, and they will automatically set up a blog on it for you. Just a plain blog that doesn't really have anything in it. And from there, what you would want to do is get a logo created, so that way you know the look and the feel. So this is after you have a name, of course, and a domain that you want. But I would use something like 99 Designs or crowdspring.com for a logo. That's actually where I got my logo, crowdspring.com. I know a lot of people that have used 99 Designs to great success. Lydia used 99 Designs for hers. And what crowdsourcing your logo is, if you don't know what it is yet, you put it out there, you put the look and the feel in general, what you want for your site, and people will come back and give you tons of ideas. And they'll want to win the prize that you have. So it's usually, I think this is about $200 or $300 for this one, but it's totally worth it for your logo, because your logo is going to want to be something that you actually do spend money on, because that's going to be something that you're probably going to have for a long time. So get a really nice looking logo from one of those sites. Okay. Once you have your blog set up, you're going to want a theme. And of course, we can go into this deeper later and all that sort of thing. I know I don't have a ton of time to sort of go through everything if you don't know what this stuff is. But you would use, personally, I like themeforest.net or woothemes.com. And you would purchase a theme, and they cost about $50. Really cheap for a website. And you can go to the site called wpbeginner.com, which is WordPress for beginners, if you feel like you're technical enough to try and figure that out. Or you can go to odesk.com and hire someone to just set that up for you. It should be really inexpensive to have them go ahead, put the theme in, and put the content, like the words, on the site that you really, really want. Okay, so just in case you don't have a website yet, that's the way I usually suggest for all my clients. The resource, too, for this specific mistake is all about not having any money. It's eventualmillionaire.com/blog/no money. That's an excuse. You probably have some money that you could probably allocate properly, but if you don't have a lot, you can still use the excuse of, I don't have enough, because a lot of the times you don't necessarily know exactly how much you're going to need. That webinar also goes through tons of ideas and tactics for what you can do for starting a business with no money. Okay, really important. The next one. Oh, let me hop out and see if we have too many questions. Oh, we're running short on time. All right. People are saying very sweet things. Thank you. All right, number 5 is marketing overwhelm. Right? If you've started already or just started looking into this stuff, I mean, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, social media, everything, it's a little ridiculous. And you don't know which one's going to work, and you don't know what you should do, or if you should do all of them, and the learning curve on all those is ridiculous too. Way too many things, hence marketing overwhelm, right? The biggest piece of marketing advice I could give to anyone is to know your market. Know who these people are that you're talking to. right? The reason why that's the best marketing advice ever is because then you only give them what they want, right? Certain people aren't on Facebook. I know that's kind of crazy, but it might be your market. Maybe your market isn't even on Facebook, right? What we want to do is we want to know who your market is so well and how they like to receive products like yours. Maybe they only do it word of mouth, right? You need to know that before you start sending them postcards. Okay, and the way you find that is by talking to them. We don't talk enough to our customers or potential customers. I think this is huge. We need to talk to them before we can sell them what they need. And a lot of the times we stick behind our computers. A lot of people are really interested in online marketing. And they're like, that way I don't have to talk to people. I don't have to cold call people. I don't have to do any of that stuff. And I think that's a huge mistake. We really need to know who these people are deeply before you can really sell and market to them. You're filling the need that they have. You need to know that need. You need to know them really, really well. And then once you know that, I suggest choosing core strategies before you launch. So after talking to these people, you know what they want and you know how they want it, right? If they go to the library and they look at the bulletin board, you want to know that's what they do. So that way you're not on Pinterest, you're actually posting on a real bulletin board, which I know sounds silly, of course, right? But that's how some people get their information, and I think that's really important to know. So what you want to do is you want to choose that ahead of time. And then the biggest thing is learn something and then implement it, right? So say it is Facebook. Say you've done a lot of research. You know that your market wants Facebook. Learn some Facebook, like one tactic, and then implement it. Don't just buy a ton of courses on Facebook. Learn, then implement, learn, then implement. That's what the most successful people do over and over and over again. We get so stuck in information overload. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm really excited you're on this webinar, and this is the stuff that you need to know right now when you're starting, but you don't need to know Facebook tactics or Pinterest tactics right now if you don't even have a name for your business. Only learn the information that you need right now and then implement it. I helped John Dumas. If you guys listen to my podcast, you might have heard of John's podcast called Entrepreneur on Fire. Awesome guy. I helped him create his whole podcast. He wanted to be a podcaster for a really long time. Funny story is we actually ended up going to high school together, which I didn't know when I first met him to be a client. He was actually 3 years older than me and much cooler than me, which is probably why we didn't really know each other very well in high school. I was a geek. John, the way he worked, it was amazing, right? He knew that he had to stick to his market. His market, the people that he really wanted to reach were people in day jobs, right? So if that's you, you should check out his podcast too, One Up for John. He ended up making his podcast, I think 26 minutes because that's the average commute. And his goes 5 days a week for people that are in day jobs. So every single day, when they go to work, drive to work, they have someone new and inspiring to listen to. He does interviews. He's done so many shows, it's ridiculous. He's gotten over 150,000 downloads a month now, is where he's at. And he started, let me just say, he launched in September, by the way. This isn't a long time thing. He launched in September. And he's doing amazing. And I asked him about this too. I mean, I know we went through a ton of stuff, so I know exactly what he went through to set up, but I was like, what was the biggest thing? What biggest marketing tactic did you have? And it was knowing his market. He knew exactly what they wanted because he was one of them. Just like I said at the very beginning, right? He was one of them. Okay. All right, so your action item for this one. What you want to do is you want to find out who your one person is, right? It's really easy to think of this mass of people, right? When I see all these people on the webinar right now, it's like a mass of people. But I think of Adam, who's my client, who's listening right now. You know, that one person that you can think of that really signifies your market. And what you want to do is once you have that general idea, you guys might even have heard this before, right? This is not necessarily brand new, oh my gosh, amazing cutting edge stuff. This is stuff that works that nobody ever does, which is why it's an action item, okay? Are you writing this stuff down? Really, really important to actually do, Okay, so if you choose this as your action item, you want to know who your market is. Where do they hang out? Where do they find products and services like yours? Right? Hugely important. And I only want you to choose 2. And this is where you'd start really getting a marketing strategic plan. I help people usually, especially bigger businesses, with their strategic marketing plans, which really goes through a lot of stuff. But we focus. We're really good at focusing because we really need to make sure what works for our market. Okay, the same thing like I said before, learn, then implement. Learn, then implement. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna put up a poll. Let me hop out of this so I can put up a poll. What action did you choose tonight? Okay, so go ahead and vote right now. Was it the choose an idea, choose a name, get out of your own way? Everyone's voting right now. I love seeing that percentage like just climb like crazy. All right, and when I say commit to one, like actually write this on your list for this week. Don't let it go by too long. If you do, it will never get done. At my speeches, what I usually do is I'll have people come up afterwards and write their name down and which one they chose, which action item they chose, and then I have my VA email them 2 weeks later to check and see if it was done. If I had a way of figuring out this for tonight, I would totally do that too. Awesome. So keep voting. There's a little bit more left. It gives me a few seconds so I can actually drink some tea. And I just want to say thank you to Rivka. I think she's going to be listening to this later. She sent me tea. It was kind of amazing. She sent me tea for this webinar tonight. It's like ridiculously nice tea also. Thank you very much. All right. Close the poll down. Well, 39% of people was the marketing. Good. Know who that person is. Really important. The next one is getting in your own way with 28%. Stuff is really, really important. Now, I think I said at the very beginning that there was something I want, actually, I don't even think I said this. There was something I wanted to chat with you guys about. We're going to definitely do a Q&A. One of the things that I think is really important that I really wanted you to know was that since I'm doing this book, I really want people for case studies. So I really want to be able to have people have amazing businesses by the time this book starts to come out. It's actually, I'll give you a insider information. It's due on August 15th. So of course you guys can hold me accountable too. The actual written manuscript of 288 pages is going to be due then. What I really want to do is at the very beginning have a program for you so that way I can walk you through this so I can have success stories by the time the book comes out. So that's actually what I'm going to be chatting about right now. I want to do a 4-week intensive of you starting your business, even if you don't have an idea yet. Because I really want to help people that are in day jobs get out of their day jobs, or students start their own thing, have people actually really get out and start their business. Because that's really a lot of what the book is about that freedom. That's what we think of when we think of eventual millionaire. That yes, eventually we're going to have $1 million, but we want to be doing the work and the life that we love along the way. That's the whole premise of the book. So what I want to do is do 4 weeks where I walk you step by step through all this stuff. So I know we didn't really have enough time to get through all of it today. My gosh, there's way more than just this. And I want you to be able to ask me anything, because a couple weeks ago I have the actual program that's just a program. And what I wanted to do though is give me live. I ended up chatting with a good friend of mine, Jeremy Franson. You guys actually might know him. He's from Internet Business Mastery. And we were talking about how few people actually implement when they buy courses. And so that's why you have me. That's why we're going to make it live. So you can't ignore me, right? And I like to say that I'm almost a black belt in karate. So if you need me to kick your butt, I'm very good at that. So just to sort of go over really quickly what you're going to get if you go to millionairesstart.com and register. You're going to get way more than what we talked about tonight on figuring out what that right idea is. Where do those best ideas come from? What's better, a product or service business? How important is the idea? How do you know if it'll be successful? I get that one all the time. And how to choose, especially if you have too many ideas. I actually walk you through exactly what I do with my clients for figuring out your lifestyle, figuring out every little piece that matters so you can pick a business for you. It's not just about the business that'll make the most money, which, is good and all, but you really want to make sure that it's good for you and your family and what you want. If freedom is the most important thing, that matters. Okay, and then after that, we're going to talk about validating the idea. This is the thing that people miss. So whether or not you go with my program, you need to know that this is hugely important. Who is your market? How can I find out if they want it? Right? How many people do I need to talk to? What exactly do I ask them? And how do I quantify those results? Because sometimes you can talk to 20 people and then come away with, wait a minute, I don't know exactly what to do. That happens often also. So how do I actually quantify those results so that way I know what way to move forward in? And that's what I like to help people make decisions. Having a second opinion is huge. Okay, the third phase of that is really going to be the marketing, where the naming and the branding. How do I pick that right name? Which I go deeper into for sure. How do I position myself? What marketing tactics should I choose? Should I choose outbound or inbound marketing? Really important question, especially when you're first starting. And how do I create and use a marketing plan? Like I said, a lot of people don't necessarily do this, but this will really start your launch for your business off right if you have something like that. And then number 4, paying customers. Really important in a business. Right? Having people that will pay you. My goal is to get you paying customers as soon as humanly possible. So how do I sell? How do I get my first 5 sales? What does my sales cycle look like? What are selling techniques that work? That one's huge for me because I used to work at Kirby when I was like 17 years old and I hated selling. I thought it was unethical and horrible, but I've learned so much that there are ethical ways to sell. It's not about being a cheesy car salesman at all. None of that stuff. There are even really amazing selling techniques that work. Right? So you don't necessarily just have to wing it. Usually that's not a good idea to wing it, but I can definitely let you know some of those techniques that actually will change your conversions like crazy. And how do I find a mentor or create a mastermind group? This is what I get all the time. When I first started online, I ended up getting Pat Flynn. I know some of you guys actually came from Pat's site. Love, adore Pat. How did I get him when I had nothing online? Now he's huge, supposedly he's huge, right? He's huge online. He has 50,000 subscribers who absolutely love him. How did I get him to say yes to my mastermind at the very beginning? And how do I find a mentor? The very first thing I got when I got into business coaching was getting a mentor who taught me everything I know, and it was for free. Okay, so there's lots of really amazing stuff because what I want to do is, this is only a month long, but I want to set you up for your business going beyond, right? And quitting your day job as soon as humanly possible. Okay, so if you like that, check out millionairestart.com. The class actually starts, I should have put this in the webinar. The class actually starts next Wednesday, February 27th. It's going to be completely live. It's going to be just like this webinar. It's going to be 90 minutes long though. And so we'll go through over a big piece of information so that way you can learn step by step what to do. And then we'll do questions and answers. So anything, I know you guys have had a ton of questions tonight and unfortunately I can't get to them all right now, but I'm willing to stay on as long as I need to answer all your questions then too. So, and unfortunately I have no idea what you guys are saying. So I'll have to pop out of this. Here we go. Love Pat Flynn. I know, there's so many people saying I love Pat Flynn. Everybody loves Pat Flynn. And if you guys don't know who Pat Flynn is, he has a site called Smart Passive Income. And he makes 50 grand a month passively. Very, very impressive. All right, I need some more tea. So if you have any questions right now for me about anything, about your own business, about Millionaire Start, about whatever, you let me know while I drink some tea. All right, this is taking me a while to read through some of these. Jamie, you are awesome. I appreciate that. Oh, Rivka is online right now. Thank you. Love you too. This tea is really, really good, by the way. Yeah, and unfortunately you can't click. Okay. Someone was trying to click on, I think, millionairestart.com, and I don't think that worked very well. Oh, what's the fee? Oh, that's funny. What's the fee? It's $197. Nice. That's really a really great question. Is there a Facebook group or some other way to connect outside the calls and webinars? You know, it's really funny. I had the Academy and I ended up meeting up people for mastermind groups, and I think that's a hugely important thing. So I can definitely set up a Facebook group for you guys, especially to meet other eventual millionaires, to maybe form some mastermind groups. That's going to be really awesome too. Yes, John, millionairestart.com. Go ahead and share it with members. Definitely. Nobody understands the answer to that one, but how can I learn so specifically about getting a mentor? Well, Kathy, I'm going to go over a ton of that sort of stuff, but I also have an article that I wrote that doesn't go into every detail. But if you shoot me an email, I'll definitely send that article your way. Yeah, see, Lee said finding a mentor is the hardest part. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And so an article will help you to a point, definitely. But there are tactics and tips that, I mean, I've helped so many people get mentors because, I mean, it's hard. You have to go through quite a few and you have to do it the right way because it's not about just, I had someone email me and say, I asked 5 people if they'd be my mentor and they all said no, they're too busy. Yeah, okay, that's not exactly the way that you go and ask for a mentor. Any recommendations for moving from the technician to entrepreneur and overcoming the perfectionist mindset? I was just talking about this yesterday, Stephen. Perfectionism. I call myself a recovering perfectionist. You know, I'm doing this webinar, even though I have to keep logging out. It's so annoying to me. I'm such a perfectionist and I know that this is going to be recorded. That's going to annoy me, but you got to do it anyway. And overcoming that perfectionist mindset is something that happens when you do it enough times. Right? The last speech that I did, I felt like I wasn't prepared enough for it. It went amazingly well. Everybody adored it. I got so much great feedback. But to me, I should have spent 10 more hours on it. But so our mindset, the perfectionist mindset, is a little bit ridiculous. And so learning that as you start putting stuff out there that maybe isn't 110% like you want and only 100% instead makes a difference. Would you suggest millionairestart.com if you want to start a blog? That's a really great question, okay? Blogs don't make money. Businesses make money. So if you just want to blog, just to have a blog, then probably not. There's probably other sites that you could use for starting a blog. Even Smart Passive Income is probably a good one. If you want to start a business where people will pay you money, that's what we want. Right? So even, I have a really good friend named Derek Halpern, and he started a site called socialtriggers.com. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it before, but he has 70,000 subscribers. He built that site, well, I think it's like 18 months old. And I knew him before he built that. He's an amazing businessman. It's not just about having a blog. He knew his market so well. He knew all the business stuff before, which is why, of course, it's making a ton of money right now because he started it knowing that it was going to be a business. Okay. Gosh, we have a whole bunch. Okay. We have another start date for classes. Oh yes, if you're not able to attend live, they're all going to be recorded. And if you're welcome to email me and let me know, especially if you can't get on the Q&A and you have some questions, definitely shoot me an email and let me know. Because I know it's really tough. Time frames, especially for all you guys over in London and in Europe right now, it's hard to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So they'll definitely all be recorded, and don't worry, I won't leave you in the dust. I'll answer your questions too. Aw, I'm so sorry, Christian. He said he's only getting half of the audio. It keeps cutting in and out, but the half that he does hear is really great. Gosh, there's tons more questions. I'll still stay on for a little bit longer. Yeah, email me at Jaime, Jaime, at eventualmillionaire.com. They were just wondering so that they could send me the email about that article. How much will I have to devote to the course millionairestart.com? That's a really great question. You want to have people that are raring to go, right? But it shouldn't take that many hours. I mean, I know you have a day job, right? Especially if you guys do, or if you have a business already. I know how hard it is. That's why I try and do the smallest amount of work, right, for the biggest result. I work 20 hours a week. I'm all about that. There's only so many things that you can do. So I only want you to be doing the things that are really, really important. The first few, like dealing with the idea and stuff like that, that should be pretty easy. The harder ones are going to be validating the idea and talking to people within that week. But that really depends on you. And if I don't get to all your questions, because I do have to get off in a little bit longer, shoot me an email too. If you have specific questions that I can't answer right now, definitely shoot me an email, jamie@eventualmillionaire.com, and I'll get back to you for sure. How did you get by while building a business without an income? Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, well, okay, so I understand you're on unemployment right now. That actually gives you a really good point to start making money with your business. We ended up saving as much money as humanly possible. We had a 6-month emergency fund, right? I thought that we would have to go through the entire thing before we could actually start making any money. When I actually quit my job, I was like, you know what? Even if this only lasts a year, it will last a year, and that will be amazing. And of course, thankfully, we're 6 years later, and it's been amazing. But at that time, it was scary as anything. It was mostly just my husband's. We had that emergency fund, but we also had a $250,000 house. So it was really tough, but we both stepped it up and did what we had to do. How much time weekly? Okay, so the time weekly each week. So the webinar is 1 hour and 1 hour and a half. Wow, that's really funny. It must be getting late. It's an hour and a half. And the time outside of the webinar for the first week, probably about an hour, right, at the most. I mean, we're not talking hours and hours and hours, but we are talking, especially for that second week, if you're going to want to talk to a certain number of people, it depends on how long that's going to be. So maybe 3-4 hours during the hard times. I've got awesome ideas for people to interview too. Somebody's saying you should interview Bob Proctor. I have a lot of really amazing interviews coming out too. I did so many last week that I just want to share with you right now, but I can't, unfortunately. Thank you guys so much. All right, so if there's anything that I couldn't answer for you right now, I'm so sorry. There's a whole bunch of questions still that I can't get to. I really, really appreciate you being on it, and I'm getting amazing feedback. Thank you so much for the insightful webinar. I really appreciate you guys being here live. You have no idea. So thank you so much. Again, if you need anything at all, definitely shoot me an email, but check out millionairestart.com. I'll be hopefully putting up the recording of this webinar out tomorrow. So if you know of anyone that might be interested in that too, definitely send it their way, especially if they're going through issues trying to start their own business. You know what it's like. Thank you guys. I hope you have an amazing night, and I will talk to you guys later. Now that you just listened to the 5 mistakes that are deadly to a business, we need to start figuring out, okay, well, what do we do? Right? If you haven't actually started a business before, you don't know what it takes to start a business. And I totally understand why, because I didn't either. It's not as though entrepreneurs are born with a training manual in their brain. Thankfully, don't worry, you weren't, and neither were any of the millionaires that I've interviewed. But the good thing is that I've gone over and over and over and figured out how they did it the right way. And I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want you to waste your money. I don't want you to be stuck in a year from now in the same place that you are right now, right? And I know it's scary. It was scary for me too. I completely understand that it's hard to sort of push into the unknown. But what is really important is that you start walking that path, even if you don't know for certain that it will work out, right? Because we will never know for certain. But we can know a tried and true path that has worked before for other people. And that's sort of what I want to tell you a little bit about right now. I have a program called Millionaire Start. And if this fits for you, I would love you to buy it. If it doesn't fit for you, that's okay too. What I really want is for you to be able to be taking action, the right steps, the right time, so you don't waste time, you don't waste money, and next year at this time, you're at a completely different place in your life. You're doing something that you love. That's really, really important to me, so I know it must be really, really important to you. But I know you also don't have a lot of time, especially if you're working a day job right now and want to quit, especially if you already have a family. I know exactly what that's like to try and get done as much as you can, but I started my business on 20 hours a week, and that's it. Millionaire Start is a program that will walk you from no idea whatsoever. If you're searching around in the dark going, I know I want to start a business, but I have no idea what, this is definitely for you. And even if you have some ideas, but they've never really come to fruition because you're not sure if it's really a good idea, this is for you too. It takes you from at the very, very beginning, right? Where maybe there's no seeds whatsoever in your brain, but you know you have the potential to build something amazing. So it starts from there, and it walks you through a process of evaluating those ideas. So at the end, you have your very first paying customer. A business is not a business without a paying customer. And when you can look back after these 4 weeks, it's a 4-week program, and go, I have my own first customer, that's huge. Huge. That validates the idea. And so I walk you through that process step by step so you know where you're at in the process too. It's definitely a process. It's not as though we come up with this bing, this is the most amazing idea ever. We run with it and it works 100% of the time. That's not the way it works in the real world, unfortunately. You know, it's like a lottery ticket. Maybe once in a while it does, but in general, it usually doesn't. And in doing all the research of millionaires, really trying to figure out not only how they started their first business, but how we can peek behind the curtain on how they start their businesses now, right? Once they've learned all their mistakes. So I don't want you to make any more mistakes. That's what this whole webinar was about. I want you to move forward and take the steps that serial entrepreneurs that have millions and millions of dollars underneath them do. Okay, and that's sort of the process that I walk you through. So just to give you an outline of what the process is, we go through the first week is all about getting that set up, right? I want to tell you exactly how millionaires found their ideas. There's actually only 3 ways, hardcore, that they found their ideas. And then we want to really hone in on generating those business ideas. James Altucher, one of the millionaires that I interviewed, thinks that the idea generation process is hugely important. Hugely important. He generates new ideas every day, and I give you some topics and tips so that way you can create your next $1 million idea. You probably already have had one in the past if you're an entrepreneurial brain in general, but we don't write these things down. And so we already start to create a system so that way as you're moving forward, we figure out ways to keep those amazing ideas under our belt. We also talk about what to do first and what not to worry about. Just like we talked about in this webinar, don't start with a website. That is not important. You don't want to do that. You want to be finding out the most key pains of your customer. And at that point, when it's so early, you don't even know what they are. And it's fine. It's normal. You don't have to know this stuff. It's a process. You'll figure it out as you go, right? And I'm going to walk you through that. The next step is phase 2, which is the idea validation part. So once you have all these ideas, what do we do with them? This is usually where a lot of people get stuck. So I want to unstick you, right? I want to show you a process on how to evaluate those ideas based on your lifestyle. Because if you're an eventual millionaire, you know that life comes before the money. You want to have an enjoyable life and an enjoyable business. So we're going to figure out which idea would fit best for your life. How much money you have to start right now. That does limit you a little bit on what sort of businesses that you can create, but that's okay. We're going to take that into account when we go through it. If you don't have $1 million to invest, that's okay. But if it's the best idea ever, how do we get that $1 million? So that way we have other people coming to invest. And also, how much time do you have to dedicate? It'll probably go a little bit slower than you want, but how can we use that to the best of our advantage beforehand when we're validating that idea? Then I go through a process that will actually help you get real tested feedback on your ideas now so you can feel confident with your decision on that one business idea to move forward on. I know that sticks a lot of people. They're not sure which one's going to be good. Well, that's what this does. It helps you figure out exactly which one business idea will be great for you to move forward on. And you can sort of put all the others aside and move forward with full steam ahead. Phase 3, then we really talk about marketing and why you don't need a 40-page business plan. I walk you through my step-by-step square business plan. It's super small, it's 2 pages, they're both square. So it's easy to be able to know only the crucial information that you need. And millionaires did not have a huge, long business plan. Let me just say that. But you do need these critical elements before you start. And that's exactly what's in the square business plan. And we figure out who you need to be marketing to and how to market to them and how to plan that product launch into the market with a bunch of key ideas from the millionaires that I've interviewed. So that's the third one. And then phase 4 is really finding and honing in on that paying customer and beyond, right? How do we find paying customers, number 1, and how do we get them to buy from you and pay you money, maybe even if you don't have your business set up yet? That's something that is extremely important, and I love that piece of it, especially if there's something very, very large that you need to be creating. Don't put all your money into creating this product. It's not about that. It's finding your first paying customer, and that can fund what you're going to be doing to create on the product. You would be surprised how much opportunity is out there if you go and look. The other thing, which is sort of a bit of a bonus, I talk about how to create your own mastermind group and find a mentor to help you for free, which will continue to pay you in dividends way beyond this 4-week course. But I just really want to make sure that you have that information there for you. And so I actually have a couple testimonials I'll read to you really quick. I wish I could have Alex on the line so he could say it. He said, I went into this class not knowing where I want to go with my business idea, and I came out with an amazing business and customers ready to buy my product. I think the biggest thing I got out of the class is the drive to move forward. I used to stop when I ran into a roadblock, but thanks to the help of Millionaire Start, I'm on my way to my business. So, if you're excited and you really, really want to get a jump start on your business, I know you do. If you haven't started yet and you know that you have so much potential, don't let the cubicle suck you in. I know you're tired at the end of the day, but this will change your life. It's changed mine. It's been amazing. And I want that same thing for you too. So go to millionairestart.com. It's only $97. Go ahead and pick it up. It goes through more testimonials on that page, exactly what it is. You'll be getting videos. You have access to all the information as soon as you get there also. So it's not as though you have to go week by week. You can do all of that as soon as humanly possible. You can shoot through in 1 week if you feel like it. All the data and content is right there for you, so you can get started today. And again, it's only $97. A business coach, I mean, I charge over $600 per hour. So having somebody there right with you to walk you through the step-by-step process is hugely important and totally worth only $97. So go to millionairestart.com, check it out, buy it right now. And if you have any questions at all, definitely shoot me an email at info@eventualmillionaire.com. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I can't wait to see you on the other side. Thanks.